Hey everyone, we're in Hurricane Dorian aftermath mode here, and I thought I'd do a very short video, 7 minutes long. I'm going to do a more elaborate garden tour video in a few days, but I thought I'd just do a lot of people have been asking what effect the hurricane had on my garden, so I thought I'd take you through. This is just my backyard, showing you some of the trees that came down. All in all, I had about 12 trees sort of destroyed by the hurricane. These ones were taken right over. A lot of them were just sort of half tipped, so I had to spend the good amount of time with the chainsaw bucking up wood and that sort of thing. These are just the same trees from the other side, just showing how basically it rains a lot and the soil gets really soft, and then the wind pushes them over. My house was almost directly in the path of Dorian in terms of where it touched down on the province Nova Scotia where I live. There's just to get a sense of the rainfall, my little goldfish pond, which was basically dry, and now it's got water in it. Here's the entrance to the garden, the beds that had the pumpkins in them. Pumpkins looked a lot better the day before. You couldn't see the actual pumpkins before. The foliage was in the way. Now the foliage has been all sort of smashed, and you can see the pumpkins. The garden, what's going on in the garden? The garden was affected by the hurricane for sure. Certain plants in my garden are sort of done. A lot of things are fine, like the parsnips are fine, and most of the greens are fine. These zucchini were beat up pretty bad, but to tell you the truth, I've just about had it with dealing with zucchini. I've had a really good year for zucchini this year, and I was getting kind of exhausted finding things to do with them, and I've been giving them away. So in that sense, I suppose the hurricane was good to me. These tomatoes here were flattened down a bit, and I mean they're still growing, but certainly the tomatoes were affected. What else? I mean, a lot of the greens were okay. These parsnips, they don't look great, but they're still growing and they're fine. Like a lot of plants can be pushed over a bit and they can just continue on. Some things can, some things can't, of course. It was weird. I had some of my kale plants, like there's a collard green, a tree collard that tip right over. A lot of those, see the kale there tipped over. That whole row. Someone asked me what I do after the garlic are done. This garden had garlic in it, and I moved these kale into it when they were juvenile, when they were young. So now it just looks like it's always been a kale garden, but this garden actually had 80 garlic in it. Now it's got these tipped over kale. That afternoon I just sort of straightened them out, and all I did was sort of bend them back into shape and put a rock against the side where they were bent down. I'll cover all this in the garden update video, the next walkthrough tour I do. Probably took me about an hour or so to put the garden back to rights as best as possible. These beans were kind of destroyed, kind of done producing anyway, but the trellis was definitely, kind of bent over a bit. Even this little baby apple tree was tipped over to some extent. Both my apple trees were tipped right over by the hurricane. And I got a whole row, it's hard to tell, but this is a row of, you're looking at right now, a row of raspberries. And this was the first year they looked like they were going to do something. They were over 6 feet high, my raspberries, and they got just trashed by the hurricane. I mean, they're still growing, and I'm sure something they'll amount to something, but not looking so good. This was the first year I really this is probably year 4, year 5 for this apple tree, and it was really producing well this year, and it is tipped right over. So, in retrospect, I should have put some guidelines on it. I didn't do anything to prepare my garden for the hurricane. All I did the day of the hurricane, before it arrived, was to go around and remove anything there from the garden that could blow around and smash stuff. I was really tired that day, and the day before I just wasn't feeling great, and I just didn't really feel like doing anything, so I thought, well, let's just see what happens when you don't do anything. There's my Northern Spy apple tree right over. So I righted those back up and put some strings to sort of hold them down, but I'm sure if I'd put good guy lines with stakes, maybe 3 lines, in a sort of triangle formation, if I'd done it properly, I think it would have prevented the damage. I'll show you how I brought them back up in the next tour video. There's my squash garden. Someone was asking me how my Blue Hubbard are doing. That's my biggest one there. It's about the size of a basketball. You couldn't see any of these before, and now everything's been revealed because the foliage just got smashed. Not really sure what's going to happen with these plants. There's the Georgia Candy Roaster. You couldn't really see them without me moving the foliage out of the way. Now the foliage is gone. Like all these things. I mean, I just did a video maybe a few days before the storm, so I think I did a video on different garden bed designs. So if you just look back a couple videos, and you'll see what it looked like just a few days before. All my tomatoes are sort of pushed down onto the ground. The ones that were tied to the trellis are still standing. But I think because they didn't get pushed over, they got the tar kicked out of them because the wind could affect them. The ones that actually fell down, in a sense, they got away from the wind. So mixed reviews on tying up tomatoes. I thought I'd be remiss in not showing you this. So these are the plastic domes for those that you follow my channel that I use to jumpstart things in the spring. And I just sort of put them in the forest with some stakes, and I think I just tied those to the base of trees that were in the area. There's my buried pickles. Again, this isn't a thick forest, so the wind wasn't as intense here. Just couldn't. There's too many trees and stuff in the way to just slow down the velocity of the wind. And in fact, that dome over there, I just put some dead logs and stuff on top of it. Nestled in with the trees and the ferns and stuff like that, and they were all totally fine. Anyway, some lessons learned there. It was a Category 1 hurricane, and I wish I had tied down those trees. Other than that, I mean, there's not much you can do when you got a garden of this size. You just got to cross your fingers and hope the damage isn't too bad. And I really don't have much to complain about. I lost about a dozen shingles off my house. I still have a roof on my house. There are people that lost their entire roof, and there are people far worse off than myself. So I really should be grateful that I only got the damage that I sustained in the hurricane. And it was a nice break from technology and so on. Sorry for not putting any videos up. We just didn't have any electricity. We couldn't do anything. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, share, subscribe. Check out my podcast, BearTimeGardening.com. And until next time, get out there, get at it, have fun in your garden, and stay safe.